Hello, my name is Brianna Champion, and this is my signature project 2. The topic that I chose was the effects of the treatment on student academic achievement success in rural education. And here you're going to see, this is the data that I found. This one is for Belgreen High School. This is actually the school that I teach at, and this was our report card. So as you can see, we got an 84, which is a B. Our academic achievement rate, though, is a 60.7. Our academic growth was 99.06. And what we're looking at is the poverty rate is also low. And so that's one thing that we're going to need to look at throughout this presentation is the poverty level, the academic achievement, and how that's going to affect the achievement success in rural education. Now the next school that I chose that we're comparing it to is called Forest Hill School. This is in Florence City, so this is a city school, and their overall score was a 96. The academic achievement, as you'll see, is a 93.58, and their academic growth was a perfect 100. Now it also notes that they are also a low poverty rate school. So that is one thing to remember as well as we go throughout this. Now the next piece of data, I actually collected this myself. This was the internet access that students have at home, and I had 12 students that did have internet access at home, and then I had 8 students who did not have internet access at home. And this really affected some of our virtual learning that we did back in the spring. I actually completed my research class back in the spring, so I was doing it during the middle of COVID-19, and it was actually interesting because it also helped me with some of my research, because what I was trying to look into was, does the fact that students do not have internet access at home, how does that relate to their academic achievement success? And this is especially a problem in rural education. So first I'm just going to summarize some of the background information that we have here. We looked at the access of resources and materials is not the same for rural schools and inner city schools. So there is a difference there. And then we're going to look at the effects of the lack of resources that students have in these school systems. So students in my classroom, they attend a rural school where they don't have the same access to resources and materials as the students who attend inner city schools. These are issues that students in rural education face on a daily basis. During the COVID-19 pandemic, many of my students are facing the homework gap because of the lack of internet access. According to the Education Commission of the states, almost 30% of all schools are considered rural schools. These schools hold 1/5 of the students that are in public schools. I do believe that rural schools offer a superb education to their students, but as a teacher in a rural school, I also believe that rural educators and students face issues that most urban school systems do not have to worry about. This research will focus on rural schools and how the problems they face impact their academic achievement. So next, we're going to look at outlining the action plan, the sampling method, and sample description. The research is to be conducted through a quantitative study using the results from the performance series test in reading and math as the method for data collection. The instrumentation of it, observations were done throughout the duration of the study, and the procedures for that was the students will be designated, they will not have their names associated, they will be referred to as an I, and then they will have a number. So the I represents the internet, and then the other group is going to be NI for no internet. That way we can distinguish the groups. The students are going to take a pre-assessment in the performance series on reading and math. Students will begin their lessons in learning either with the internet and technology devices or with the traditional teacher teaching them. Students will then take a post-assessment after 3 months of participating in the study to determine if there is an effect of the use of technology and internet on academic achievement. And it's also important to note there that both groups are going to have access to technology while they are at school. The only difference is going to be the students that have internet at home, they can use their internet at home for homework and different additional resources. But the students that do not have internet at home, they will not be using internet at home. They're only going to be exposed to the technology and the internet while they are at school. Next, we are going to look at the collaborative efforts. The teacher will work with students throughout the whole learning process. So the teacher will be there to guide, help the students throughout the whole learning process. So no one will be left behind. And we've went over the procedures, and then the next thing is the internal and external validity. On that, the internal will be the test and the research results. The internal tests that are given were the standardized tests, and the procedures were kept the same for each group. For the external, that would be the field experiment, and this type of research was done outside of a laboratory, therefore it was able to be considered a field experiment. Describe ethical considerations that must occur if you were to implement the action plan. First being confidentiality. Each student in the 3rd grade class will take the performance series test as scheduled at Belgreen High School. So this is something that already goes on. It's nothing out of the ordinary for students to take this test. Although this research involves little to no risk to participants, informed consent will be obtained from parents or guardians due to the fact that the research subjects are minors. In order to protect the identity of the students, all participants will be assigned a random number from 0 to 20 to ensure that no identity will be linked to the results. Next is describe ethical considerations that must occur if you were to implement the action plan. This is also continued special populations. On this, students are a variety of races, so we are not singling out just one type group of students. This will be across the whole 3rd grade, so we're not singling anyone out. And then next, the IRB. The IRB is the Institutional Review Board, and they can choose to approve, disapprove, monitor, and require modifications in all research activities that fall within its jurisdictions as specified by both the federal regulations and the institutional policy. The present results. Connect the action plan outcome to student achievement. Explain how the action plan, if the action plan had been implemented, would connect to student achievement. And then to see student achievement growth, what change in the data would you need to see? For both of these, in order for you to be able to see achievement growth, student achievement growth, the data would need to reflect that change. As a result, there would be higher test scores. The action plan, if it had been implemented, it would have connected to the student achievement because it would be information that students are learning, and you would be able to correlate both of those throughout the research process. And the reflection. Explain changes that you would make in the original plan. If I could make any changes to the research, I would go back and do a randomization of students, and this would open it up to more than just one set of classrooms. This would help to improve that internal validity. And what additional research could be done in this area to improve student achievement? On that, I would note that now you could do a study since COVID-19 to see if students who did not have internet access at home, if they showed either a decline in their achievement scores compared to the students who did. compared to the students who did have internet access at home and were able to participate in that virtual learning. I know personally I had 20 students, and out of 20 students, I had 4 students who actually went through and completed the virtual learning that I sent out. Now, many of the reasons that occurred is because many of my students don't have internet access at home. They just simply either don't have the money for it because their family just doesn't have that extra money laying around to pay for internet access, or it's not even offered in their area. So this would be something that I would be able to go back and research to see how that affected student achievement. And lastly are my resources and references. Thank you.